Hello, everybody, and welcome to OutRaised Voices. I am your host, Sharon Lee Williams, and if you've been here before, thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for showing up again. If you're new here, thank you as well. I appreciate you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being part of this community, for supporting the community, and for just hearing these voices that make a difference. Because we all need to, we all can, and we all do make a difference. Stories make a difference. So today, our CEO is Natasha Halliday. Now, for those of you who don't know what I mean by CEO, the reason I call my guests CEOs is because they bring conversation, education, and outreach. So they are CEOs. So Natasha Halliday. Now let me tell you a little bit about her, and you can find her bio at the end of this. But therapist, author, college professor, social worker, child youth care practitioner, keynote speaker, and comedian.
Hello.
Fabulous glasses, of course.
Thank you.
And for those of you who don't know, we had a brief Natasha and I have had a brief conversation, I think last week, just a very short conversation, just a get to know you conversation, as I call it. And about 15, 20 minutes. So I have a little bit of an idea of where she's going and what she's doing. But one of the things you said to me, Natasha, was, you said your heart is in working with young people, and with all the skill sets, all the skill sets that you have, do you find that having a sense of humor helps you to communicate better with young people?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for several reasons. One, because if you can connect through making a young person laugh or finding something mutually funny, that already levels the playing field.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, being able to laugh at yourself.
Yes.
Right? I say to people, I'm happily out of touch. And what I mean is, I don't know all the latest music. I don't know all the latest trends, and I'm okay with that. But what I'm willing to do is ask questions when I talk to young people, and I laugh about things that don't make sense to me or how I might misinterpret something. And because I don't come across as I know it all, I find that allows for better rapport building and connection.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. We all need to laugh. As adults, as children, we need to laugh and just see ourselves in a joyful way, right? So let's start with your beginnings. Tell us your story, your beginnings, young Natasha. Where does the seed of Natasha becoming who you are today begin?
So I grew up in the GTA, and my older sister wanted to be a child psychologist. And so I decided then that's what I was going to do too.
Oh.
And so from very young, I knew I always wanted to help people. So at 7, if you had asked me, what do you want to do, Natasha? I said, I'm going to be a lawyer or a psychologist. And that was what I held on to all through school.
Wow.
And then I was getting closer to graduating high school, and I thought, I really loved history. So loving history made people think I'd more lean to the law, but I loved history, but I didn't want to study the laws. When I started to realize my interest is more in the human brain, then I leaned more to the psychology way. And started as a psych major, didn't continue in that, moved into a program called Child and Youth Worker at a local college. And I felt like the program was written for me. I was like, this is it. I have found it. I was so convinced by I don't know, 21 maybe, that this is what I wanted to do. And that was really what happened. I stayed in the field. I continued to go back to school. I got my undergrad degree. Some years later, after graduating from college, I went back and got my master's degree, started initially working with just children and youth, and then realized, wait a minute, I love people, period. So then I started branching into working with all ages and eventually registered as a social worker, and now have my private practice where I see individuals, supporting them with their mental health and just their emotional well-being. A lot of people think therapy is about having a diagnosable disorder, and I'm like, therapy is about, there's some things that I haven't figured out or I need a little bit of tweaking with, and there's somebody who knows how to help me with that. And that's what I'm there for, is to help people with that wherever they are in their journey. However I can support, I'm there to do that.
Now, you did say that your parents had fostered and that you were living at home at the time. So
Yeah.
did you sort of sit them down, and what, you were a social worker at that point, or not?
I was working as a child and youth worker at that point. So I actually sat them down when they said they wanted to start fostering, and I was like, these are the parameters. You will not take under this age. You will not take over this age. You will do this. You will do that. And I basically told them teenage females was all we were going to do. And they're like, well, why? And I said, first and foremost, you do not want to be changing diapers anymore. You do not want to be running after little kids. You don't want to have to deal with picking somebody up from school. So you need somebody who's independent enough to get to and from school. Right. And then I don't remember why I said females. Now I can't remember what my logic was for that. But I basically told them that. But my dad, so my parents had 3 children each before they got married. So my dad's a girl dad. He has 4 daughters. So he had no argument, because he's like, girls is all I do. My mom had 2 boys. But it worked out really well. They thoroughly enjoyed it.
So this is it, past tense, you're saying that, but what age were they when they decided to foster? I mean, what was the motivation?
I think it was, my mom had some time in foster care growing up.
Oh, okay.
So she knows what it's like to need that support.
Yes.
I think a little bit was, my mom was 23 when she had me. And so they had a miscarriage and a baby who died a few days after she was born, after they had me. But I think my mom was like, I'm too young to have a child who's an adult. I still need some momming time. So I think for her, a big part of it was just that I still want a mommy.
Yeah.
My parents were the parents that, a lot of the young people at church wanted to talk to. I used to joke that we collected people like pogs, because everywhere we went, somehow my parents had new children.
Yes.
So fostering to me only made sense because they were always parenting somebody.
Mm-hmm. So it's different in the community, but you're an adult at this time, so I can't ask you the question, how did you feel with a teenager coming in the house? Because I know that some biological siblings have issues with, parents either adopting or fostering teenage children, and feel that the attention has sort of been taken away from them. So that is not your case, but did your parents bring in a couple of children at the time, or siblings, or how did this?
I think at one point we had 2 teenage girls. We didn't ever have siblings. They did a little bit of respite as well. So, where it might have just been a weekend. But my mom actually found that more tough. My mom falls in love in 2 seconds flat. So she's like, what do you mean you don't get to stay with me? I already love you, right? So I think she found the respite a bit more challenging, because she didn't get to spend a longer amount of time with the young person. And so...
Are they still in touch, your parents and the...
No.
Okay.
They were in touch for some time afterwards, but not till this day. Eventually kind of fell off. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about social media, because I have some questions that as I was listening to to our brief interview. What do you think the impact of social media has on youth aging out, young adults who have been in care? What do you think that? Because are they less inclined to believe in that perfect job and that perfect life. Oh, if I get out, I'm going to do this. Do they have goals? Do they want to go to post-secondary? I mean, how do you feel that is working for them, social media?
Well, I actually think, they talk about algorithms on social media, and I think that there's the algorithms that are built into the system, but I think we naturally implement our own algorithms. And what I mean by that is a person who wants to maybe pursue their entrepreneurial will tend to flock to more pages about that kind of stuff. Somebody who thinks there's the dream life may flock to more of the the pages that reinforce that thought process. So while it can be great, it can be potentially really harmful all at the same time. But social media, it's like food. So are we feasting on junk? Are we feasting on poisonous food? Are we feasting on things that feed our soul and our spirit? What are we choosing to feast on? We actually have a say in that.
Yes.
I think the unfortunate part is social media came about and there was no handbook, and we don't necessarily teach people how to engage. Yes. So I know I have dialogues about, I'm a therapist. I have dialogues with my clients about how do you think it's impacting? Okay, so then I talk to them about ingestion. Are you overeating? Is it giving you indigestion, right? If you think about it as your eyes and your ears as portals of ingestion, what you take on social media, what impact is it having on you? And so how do you tweak and adjust accordingly? I'm not big on the stop altogether. I don't think that may be necessary. It's about how do you use
realistic.
Yeah, absolutely, or realistic. One, like I have times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to take a break from social media, and I'm like, but then I can't post about my business unless I have somebody else doing it. So, I mean, I use it as a business tool. I use it for personal reasons, I use it for all different reasons, but I try to be cognizant. I actually had a really interesting experience just yesterday, seeing a post that was somebody saying they saw something creepy at the Pope's funeral. And everything in my gut said, this is fake. Uh-huh. And so I did a little of my own research. Absolutely was not footage from the funeral. And I thought, how many people are just going to buy that and then because the video was creepy. But that's I think one of the things I think that can be unfortunate about social media is we're used to getting information without it being vetted. So now we've learned to just buy and take in everything.
Yes.
Without thinking about it.
Well, also that attractiveness, because you went to it, I'm not saying it was attractive, beautiful, but you said, let me check this out. And that's what happens. We go, let me see if this is real. There's something, the way it's set up and where it feeds our brain or something that says, go on, let's check this out. Otherwise, we could have just said, who cares? But yeah. A lot of times we don't. And I know for myself, sometimes I get caught up in the feed. I'm going, what am I doing? Like an hour later, I'm there looking at this stuff. And I ask myself, what am I doing? Not getting anything out of it. I'm just scrolling.
Yeah. I like the days where I'm like, the internet for the win. When I see that funny video that I have to watch a few times because it just delights me and I get a good chuckle and it's not harmful to anybody. I appreciate, and I appreciate people's creativity, but it can be so, if I'm feeling upset about something in my life, let's say something that happens a lot with some of my clients is they're feeling that, it's taking too long to get married. Oh, well, social media, all they're going to seem to notice is all the engagement posts. But what they miss is that they're engaging in mental filtering. They see 25 posts, 2 might be about people being engaged, and they feel like all the posts are about that, but they're filtering out all the other stuff that's different because it's hitting a pain point, and so that's what's being amplified.
Well, that's interesting. What age do people generally want to get married? I'm going to say is predominantly female, right? Who are questioning this.
Yes.
What age is a good age now for them to get married? What do they feel?
I find by late 20s, they start to feel it.
Wow. Okay. Because of the babies or...
That's it. It's a lot of it's tied to, one, feeling it's the next progression in life. Mm-hmm. I check school, check starting the career I wanted. Yes. Now the next progression in life of accomplishments is marriage, then babies. right?
Right.
Or perhaps, if somebody has a lot of people in their life who are already married, then they're feeling like, well, why am I not married? And then, one of the things I've noticed is how much you hear it in the dialogue. Are you married? And I used to, because I do stand up, I used to talk about, somebody would say to me, are you married? And I'd say no. And they're like, oh. And I'd get the head tilt. I was like, well, that's too bad. And then they start asking questions. And it's like, because people act like singleness is a disease. So the people who are in it, don't want to be in it sometimes, and then try to run towards marriage. What I ask people is, what have you been taught about marriage? What do you know about marriage? Why do you want to be married? We run to something without having a clue of why we want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that fear of being, sometimes just fear of being alone, or we're going to miss out on whatever it is they feel they're going to miss out. I mean, with divorce rates so high, one would think that people stop and say, wait a minute, let me figure myself out first. Especially as a woman, figure yourself out first and then step into it. But it doesn't always work like that. It just doesn't always work like that. We hope for the best. So
I think the pressure for babies is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I hear.
With such a high divorce rate.
Yeah.
I don't mean stay away from marriage, but I'm like, are you scrutinizing, if there's such a high divorce rate, what's happening, why so many people are getting divorced? And I ask female and male clients, like I said, what's your vetting system? What do you mean? Well, when you meet somebody, how do you decide that they're a good candidate to even date? Because we like each other and we're attracted to each other? That's not enough. Cute looks and good conversation is not going to hold a marriage together.
No.
But we're not being taught that.
And even if you're taught that, do you want to believe that in the height of passion?
Right.
Because that's where we really get caught, in that height of, this is love forever. I know this is only you. I love only you forever and ever and ever. So that passion is our draw, is our high. That high is hard to come off of, and to say, oh, well, wait a minute, let me stop and think. Is this just a high that I'm going to, it'll go away? Or is it, what is it? So I think it's challenging. And also this thing about babies, I just found out that having a baby after, what is it, 34, 35,
they call it a geriatric pregnancy.
Which
absurd.
I said I had mine at 39, so I was definitely geriatric.
So the idea that the term geriatric pregnancy exists,
yes,
the extra pressure that puts on somebody. And so I'm a Christian. When people used to say to me, when I was hitting a certain age, are you worried about a geriatric pregnancy? I said, if God wants me to have babies, I'm going to have babies. And I'm going to trust God for a healthy baby. I don't care what age I am. Like, I'm, but it's another way that then we buy the hype, and then there's all this pressure.
Exactly.
But I think you hit on something so great when you said, the passion and the thrill. And I think this is one of the dangers of social media. Yes, because I often refer to, us struggling to separate life from what we see in somebody's highlight reel. People post their best moments on social media and often stage them. And sometimes we look at it without going, that's their vacation. That's their this. Listen, now that we can take digital pictures, I'm posting a picture. I think I look fabulous, but I'm 40 pictures later, I'm deciding this one is postable.
Yes.
So it's like, oh my God, you look so great. Did you see that twice I look like something that came out of a swamp? No, I didn't post that.
And we have filters. We have everything now. You can you can look 30 years younger. You can look thinner. You can be all kinds of things. And that's why
now we could be jealous or upset about the falsehoods that we see online.
Yeah.
But we also, because, and this is something that comes up in my therapy practice, when people see what people post about, sometimes they start to internalize, well, my life's boring. I'm not having enough high moments. And I'm like, first of all, if we all lived at that level of adrenaline, it would kill us. So stop your nonsense.
Yes.
I tell my clients straight. I'm like, let's be straight. What you think is a thrilling is beyond what we can probably physically handle. We
Yes,
need
exactly.
boring moments to balance
Yes,
out, right?
yes,
But
yes, yes.
but it's also, again, can we turn on a filter of a realistic eye? How do I look
Hmm.
at social media through the lens of, think about how you post? People are doing the same thing. We post the greatest
Hmm.
moments. We post our most
Hmm.
fun. Like I try to sometimes post those more silly moments. I did post once about having a day where I thought by the end of the day I should be like not even allowed to operate heavy machinery. I took somebody else's card at the grocery store. I was doing dishes. My mom called. I left the tea towel as I was drying a dish and putting it away. I left the tea towel in the cupboard with it. I found yogurt in the cupboard instead of the fridge, all in one day. I was just like, I took pictures of
Uh-huh.
all of it and I put it on Facebook, and I was like, this is how off I am today. Do not let me operate heavy machinery. In
Oh,
fact, I
oh
might need a
my.
helmet and a harness. Like, I just
Oh
thought,
my
let's laugh
God.
at it, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we don't all do that.
Yeah,
Now it's if
yeah.
there's a challenge, the natural look challenge.
Hmm.
Why is that a challenge? We're born with the
Hmm.
natural look. We wake up every day with the natural look. Why is it a challenge to post that?
Well, it's a challenge to post that. It's a challenge to be old. It's a challenge, all of it. And you really have to check yourself all the time and say, okay, where am I at? And I look at, even for myself, looking at pictures of when I was, and recently I had a video or CD, and looked at something of me in my 30s, went, oh, girl, you were happening. But I'm still happening. I had to address, I'm saying, different time. I'm in my 70s, different time. You have to own who you are, not be afraid of the age, not be afraid. Mind you, I don't like when people see me without my eyebrows. I will say that.
Me
I
too.
will. Sorry. Gonna say.
That's where I draw the line. I tend to say, listen, I got to put my eyebrows on, and I don't like, from a teenager. I don't like to not have earrings on. I
Yes,
don't like the naked
earrings.
earlobes.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. So we all have something, and it's all cool, no judgment. Be who you are, and yeah, be who you are. So let's talk a little bit about mentorship, because I love you as a mentor. I'm thinking, oh gosh, these youth that talk to you get to hear your voice in a lot of ways. But are there it's important in the early years to have mentorship, and what are the requirements? I mean, do you have, when you suggest or try to put people together, what are the requirements for mentorship for young people or within the system? How does that work if somebody's interested in becoming a mentor?
Yeah. I don't know if I flushed all of that out, but definitely not just having certain levels of expertise or experience, but I'm very much the one who looks at how we relay information.
Uh-huh.
So I could be very skilled at something, but it doesn't mean I have the skill set to break it down to somebody.
Right, right,
So
right,
if
right,
I'm
right.
teaching somebody about life and I'm just saying, well, you can't be emotional all the time. Well, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
How am I teaching them the tools to not live within their emotions all the time, so that might interfere with how they function in certain things? So I think um, a big thing that I would think is important is that ability to break down information in palpable and receivable ways, so
Mm-hmm.
that what they think is important to relate to the young person, they know to do it, so that what's sent is also received. I think that's
Ah,
really
good point,
important.
good point. Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that I wrote down that you said that people can see emotionless as being resilient. And I
Right.
love that. I love that you said that. That's really a big. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, like I've actually had people, because one resilience is one of my topics in speaking, and I've
Mm-hmm.
had people say, "Oh, don't say resilient to me," and I'm like, why is it getting this bad name? And then I realized, because it's a lot of that tough it out and suck it up, buttercup, and I'm like, the most resilient thing to do is to be in tap with your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
not to pretend you're not experiencing an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I understand that they don't want somebody showing up somewhere and being a puddle of emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but why is it not okay to say I'm sad if something sad has happened? And I think there is some confusion about stepping outside of emotion is what toughness looks like, is what grit looks like. Whereas grit is the ability to figure out the tools to move through it, despite how we feel.
Right. It's interesting. People can show up with anger, but saying I'm sad is not a thing. But I'm angry, I'm PO'd, people don't even say I'm jealous. That comes out in anger sometimes, but unless you're speaking to them, you know, are they jealous? No, I'm not jealous. I'm just reflecting something. But we can show all those, I think, negative emotions, but it's harder to show our softness, harder to show our fears.
We don't want to be vulnerable.
We don't want that. And why would you say that is?
Well, I think we're wired by the desire to be safe. And so where we see vulnerability, we see that my safety might be at jeopardy. Right. And so I often teach people, I say, you know, we fear that when we don't realize that we're outsourcing all of our safety. If I say something to you and you don't receive it, it's going to bother me, but it's not going to devastate me because I've got an internal locus to support myself. When I don't have those mechanisms in place, you're agreeing with me or not could make or break me in certain moments. And then it's the, you know, we're programmed by the ongoing messaging that we get in life. I'm a therapist and I've never, till this date, had a client not apologize for crying in my presence in session. At least the first time they did it. I'm sorry. And I'm like, if you can't cry with a therapist, who can you cry with?
Right.
And when I first started doing the individual psychotherapy model, I was like, why is this happening? And then I realized, because all people ever hear is don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So they're receiving that indirectly as it's bad to cry. It's bad to have those emotions.
And don't let them see you. Yeah. Don't let them see you cry. Right. Don't let them see you cry.
Well, think about the commercial back in the day. Never let them see you sweat.
We
took that beyond deodorant.
Yeah.
That became a metaphor for don't show your weakness.
Yes.
And then the question is, what's weakness? Because some people see vulnerability as weakness.
Yeah. And that's a hard one, also a difficult one to get over, to feel strong enough to show that, to feel that power, your own self-power, to show your vulnerability, but also to have parameters, to have, you know, you also have to have, what's the word I'm looking at? Parameters, I guess, to know, okay, I don't have to be out there showing all that stuff to everybody. It's not that I'm trying to be all that to everybody, but I know that inside. This is how I feel, and when I feel right, if I want to go home and cry, but I'm going to release that. I have to release it. But you can't just, the reality is you can't, you know, if you're going for a job interview and you don't get it, or being a comedian and being, I tell people that as someone who's been in show business a long time, having rejection, being rejected really teaches you a lot. It really teaches you a lot about, oh, no, you didn't get the part, you know. And are they rejecting me, or are they rejecting, when I talk about voiceovers or singing something, singing a commercial, and somebody said, okay, no, they choose another person. But we take it on, oh, they don't like me, as opposed to you're not right for that particular part. And I would think as a comedian, you're even more vulnerable. It's more in your face, because if you go out and do a show and people don't react, how does that, I mean, I've always found that when I see comedians, my heart goes there like, oh, please, laugh. So how do you handle that?
Well, I deal with it on two levels, because when you're trying to solicit your own speaking jobs through outreach, I mean, the return rate is very low. So it feels like a lot of rejection initially.
Yes.
But as a comedian, I mean, I actually recently had an experience where I had to step outside of my initial reaction. So I was in a show and I was just like, oh, I totally bombed.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that way as I was stepping off stage. And then I had people saying, you were great. And I'm
Oh.
like, y'all didn't laugh enough for me to feel that I was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Mm-hmm.
replayed it in my mind and I had all the eyes on me. I saw people nodding. And what I realized was because I do a lot of storytelling in my humor, they were entertained. They didn't necessarily find it laugh out loud funny, but they were being entertained. And so they
Mm.
appreciated being entertained, especially because it was an older Caribbean crowd and I was talking about stuff from the Caribbean. So they were just getting to reminisce about stuff and laugh about things and all these different pieces. And I was like, okay, so I, as a comedian, get on stage trying to make people laugh, which is a part of the umbrella of entertainment.
Right.
Some people are okay with just being entertained. And so people didn't see what I did as a bad thing. I just didn't hear as much laughter as I wanted to and initially interpreted that as bad. So, one, I've had to revamp my perspective of how I do my job well as a comedian. Can I be satisfied if they're entertained, even if they're not laughing loudly all the time? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also, when they're not laughing loudly, I try to look at something I take from what I teach my clients in therapy is how else can I see this? Because the first reaction is going to be tied to every pain point, every insecurity I have. Oh, they thought I wasn't this, blah, 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 and I go through the gamut. And then I have to pause and go, okay, but how else can you see this? Was it
Mm-hmm.
your timing? Was it your tone? Was it just a one-off? And this crowd, like, has this joke landed 20 other times? And maybe
Yes.
some reason it didn't land this time. Was it, the four comedians before you set such a different tone, it was hard to come back to where you were at, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
different things
Yep.
that influence that. So I try to, once I've had that first gut reaction, that's probably me beating myself up, pause and
Yes.
go, how else can I see this? And then one of the things again that I teach as a therapist is, can I replace judgment with curiosity and be curious about what I could do differently
Mm-hmm.
to then do what I love doing well?
Mm-hmm. So how does this work? How does it translate when you're uh, being a therapist and someone doesn't respond to suggestions or ideas or how you're working with them? How does that feel for you?
I've taken it the same way sometimes, thinking I'm not doing my job well enough. What else can I do? Um, but I also know from my own human experience that I can hear some really great sound advice, and there can be many different reasons why I'm not able to implement it at that time. It may
Yes,
not be a
yes,
lack of desire.
yes,
There's so many things. So whereas I used to take a lot of it as evidence that I wasn't a good therapist, now I'm just
yes.
like, no, because are they going to keep showing up if they think you're not doing a good job? It's just a matter of, sometimes it takes more than once to hear it. Or, maybe one of the things I benefit from is because I teach, I try to engage people based on their learning styles. Because again, I think about if information is being sent, is it being received? I could talk
Mm-hmm.
for 20 minutes, but it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
it's being understood. It doesn't mean it's
Mm-hmm.
resonating. So
Right.
I often examine, how does the person on the receiving end receive it? Are they getting what I'm
Uh,
hoping they're getting, and are they
what's
getting what they need?
and are they ready to
Yeah,
receive?
absolutely.
Because we say sometimes we're ready for something, and then when it happens, like, well, no, there's resistance. There's resistance there. So, thank you for that. Now, one of your interests you said is in burnout, like where you work with adults in burnout, and it led me to think about youth, young adults who are coming out of care. Are they experiencing burnout after being through? Some of them have been through many homes or situations. Are they just tired, burned out? Not that they use those words, but they're burned out.
Oh, I think absolutely that can happen. I think there can be
The
um,
exhaustion of
the
navigating it.
exhaustion of the uncertainty of, where's my home?
Yes.
Right? I worked in the system when somebody is under and maybe it's changed a bit since I started my career many many years ago. But the different custody agreements determine somewhat the length of stay. So there's as I've worked in residential treatment centers where they can only come for 6 months, or they're supposed to only come for 6 months. Well, sometimes 6 months is that when they start to feel like this is home, and then they have to go again. Right? Foster care might be
what
a
do you
bit
mean they
different.
have to go? Do you mean they have to go to another place, or they go back home?
Either or.
Or either or.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
sometimes and that's more like a group home, sort of like live-in
Yes,
treatment.
yes.
Foster care, except when it's respite or if it's an interim sort of foster care home, it's designed to go longer term. And ideally help, they could be there potentially till they age out and go and then move into adulthood and to live on their own. But there's a lot of stress in being in several places potentially throughout your childhood. And feeling how do you feel settled? We saw that uncertainty during the pandemic, and a big stress was just the not knowing. And then, truth be told, are they really equipped? I've worked in the group home setting and thought, we're not making them ready.
You mean to be on the adult journey?
And to live on their own. Like, you're not moving out to having 8 people to share cooking with, and so you're cooking once a week. Now you've got to figure out all your food. If you don't clean, nobody's cleaning. Have we taught them about money and budgeting? Right? Like, I remember, some of the young people I worked with, when they would get, twice a year, there'd be some money that would come in that would be for, clothes and certain things. And I'd have young people wanting to buy designer clothes. I'm like, not when I'm on shift. Because you can get 2 pieces of thing and all your money's done, but you need underwear, you need other stuff. Like, so are we teaching them the value of money? Like, there's some, different things that we really want to, I think some of the burnout comes from the exhaustion in not feeling prepared.
Yes.
Or once living on their own of all the things they have to handle versus they used to be shared responsibilities.
Because you do, from my experience, when I came out, feeling that sense, yay, freedom, and then all of a sudden, freedom is reality. It didn't look the way I had envisioned.
It never does.
This is freedom, but wait a minute, you got to find a place to live. You got to fit in. What does a job look like? Where can I get this job? I don't want to tell people about my experience. There's also all the limiting beliefs that come in, all the shame. You're in
post-secondary school. Can you do that and parent yourself? Because you're essentially parenting yourself.
Yes,
at
yes.
18, 19, 20, like.
Yeah. Well, in post-secondary school, do you find more of the youth are wanting to do that or not wanting to go there?
To go to post-secondary, you mean? Or?
Yeah, to step into post-secondary education.
I find
or
there's
they just
still
want
a
it.
desire.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Good. I mean, there is that element of let me jump into the workforce and make the money. Or because of the age of the Instagram business, some people just want to be self-employed, not knowing that is a tough avenue to be in. To have inconsistent income, and again, this is where, what are we choosing? What algorithm have we created in our own life? Are we only ingesting the material that makes it look like everybody jumped into being a billionaire and have consistently stayed that wealthy? And so with their one big idea, that's going to be them too.
Now, culturally, do you work predominantly within the Black community? Or in therapy, or do you find it's just
the majority? It's not an intentional thing. It's just, I think people want to seek out therapists who they feel some of the work is already done. I don't have to justify if I have an experience that I think is tied to being in a Black body or being Caribbean or being of African descent. Sometimes people I just want to feel like they already get that piece. So I don't have to add that to what I'm explaining, or feel like I have to defend my perspective. So I don't have I don't advertise saying this is what
Yeah, me
I'm
too. Yep.
a Black therapist looking for Black clients, but I do find, especially because I started my practice, like I literally launched my practice the week right when the pandemic started.
Ooh.
So at the time, because of the climate of what was happening in North America, people more were seeking Black therapists
Yes,
as
yes,
Black
yeah,
people. So that
yes.
naturally happened. And even young people, I've had parents tell me, yes, my child said they wanted a Black therapist. And so that sometimes is part of, I think that's why that it tends to be a higher amount. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
And that
So
it's important because I mean people that want to feel comfortable that they get that they're understood, like you say, that process is okay. She's a woman of color, she gets it, so I don't have to deal with that because I'm dealing with that in the outside world. That's one of the things I'm having a problem with. So, but she'll understand. Not to say that any other culture therapist wouldn't understand, but to be with someone who is within your culture, sometimes it's just I don't know if it's easier, but more comfortable, more, especially with the Black community, to be vulnerable, to open up is a big thing, as it is in the Indigenous community.
yeah.
Has there ever been a story that took you a while to shake that you hear from your clients or youth or?
Hmm. I definitely had situations that sat more with me. Um, Nothing that's jumping out at me, but I think that's also partially because I really try to have things in place for me to not let things sit with me too long. So I'm in
You tr-
supervised practice. I talk to my supervisor. I have lots of friends who work in the same field. I can have moments of, dialogue. Um, Obviously not giving away anything that would be confidential
yes, yes.
information. But even just to being able to process how I felt about something. Um, and because in my own practice, in my own life, I'm a Christian. I also take a spiritual lens, so I will pray sometimes about a situation that I've heard in practice. And I think the challenge for me is the professional boundaries of, if somebody's telling me a story that's hitting all my stuff, because I'm not exempt from having stuff doing this work.
Yes, of course,
I've
of
got to
course.
make sure then that I don't come at them as Natasha, who's been through something similar, and maybe a hurt part of me speaks. I still have to have the professional speak, and not let the part of me that's like, yeah, go get him, come
Yeah,
up and
yeah, yeah,
right. You
yeah,
go tell her off, right?
yeah, yes,
That's not okay, right?
yeah.
I'm very honest with my clients. Like, I've said to my clients who are telling me things, I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, I forgot to tell my face to shut up, because I recognize my facial expressions are revealing a bit more of what I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. So that's how I often express it. So I'm like, hold on, I forgot to tell my face to shut up. I need to recalibrate my face.
I like that. So
Right.
that's how you deal with your own self care, I guess. I mean, between humor and other friends within the business, do you walk away and say, "I need"? Do you take time away from being a therapist? Like, you go on vacations for a month and say, "I got to cleanse. I need to cleanse."
I can't say a month. It's been a while since, I don't know if I've
A
ever had
month?
a month, but I
I
think,
don't know. I
but
haven't. You know.
but I also, like, I'm a firm believer in, um so I don't know if this came up in our conversation the last time. One of the things I talk about when I teach people about self-care is using it the way we use vitamins versus the way we use medicine. So typically we're low on vitamin D as Black people, so we take vitamin D
Yes.
daily. And keeping our vitamin D levels up prevents lots of medical conditions we could get into. I would rather prevent it than getting diagnosed and having to take medication for it. So my self-care is that daily vitamin. So I do little things regularly so that my levels stay up, so that when life does what life does best, which is life at you,
Yeah.
I'm not hit as hard because my levels are up.
Yes. Yes.
So it could be small practices. One of the things that right now is big, and it's so funny because it sounds so simple, but when I say this is like giving me life, is I now seek solitude. And so I often start
Yes.
my day. I get up, I thank God for the day, and I have a special. So my office that I'm in right now is my office/war room. So that section is like the chair that's got my high back chair where I do my time with God and my Bible and my books and all my stuff. And it's facing a window, and I start my day just looking out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
sit in silence.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I've started doing is I'm like, okay, so stop and listen. What do you hear? Because it sounds like silence, but when I start to really zone in, I'm like, oh, I hear off in the distance, I hear somebody. But I'm trying to, what I've noticed about silence is that we've learned to be uncomfortable in silence because we cram so much stuff into our lives. We're oversaturated and overstimulated, right? I think our lives are like CP24. There's something on the screen, but there's something scrolling here and the weather's over here. And we live our lives that way where there's too much information all the time. So now what happens is when it's quieter, we get anxious because we don't know how to be still. So now that I'm choosing to be still, I'm noticing I'm just like, I'm feeling stressed out. I'm like, oh, because I'm not cramming every second of my life with stimulation.
Mm-hmm. Which is tough not to do.
Mm-hmm.
So before you start a therapy session, do you have a routine? I mean, that you do something to, some people cleanse the air, some people have a prayer, some people sit in silence. Do you have a particular way to step into
I
your...
don't anymore. I used to have more of a kind of specific routine. I now kind of, I just come. I think one of the things I like about being a therapist is it is I feel like I'm very good at zoning other things out. So I can be in conversation with somebody and everything else falls away to some degree.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so I can show up and be present. What I value more is what do I do after the session? Because I'm a container. So people have poured their stuff into me. I have to be intentional not to, like, I've got my water bottle here, which is pretty much full. I've taken one sip. I've got to make sure that I don't end my day like this. I've got to pour some out because I can't live life this full. Because then when something else comes, I'm overflowing. So what's more important to me is not the before now, it's become the after practice.
Wow,
And that could
that's
be
great.
moments of silence. It could be music. It could be and thank God there's no cameras in my house, my ghetto YouTube dance parties where I dance around my living room.
I do
But a
that.
big part of that is get that energy out, get
Yeah.
stepping, get moving.
Yes.
Like I'm a professional dancer when nobody can see what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
And
get
then
that.
laughter. I love
Yeah.
to laugh. And it's so healing.
Well, I guess my last question for you before we go. What is the message that this generation needs to hear in order for them to see their possibilities and I guess for them to put their best foot forward? Do you have a message? Any?
For them to hear their best foot forward.
What do you
So
think they need to hear?
one of the things that comes up all the time is this pressure to have it all figured out. So I think the best thing that I can offer is life is a journey. And what you think is figuring it out is you actually making a stop. It's not you living there. We make stops and then we continue on the journey. So to be able to release the pressure to have it all figured out, especially if we could have it all figured out, how many of us are going to do it by 20? When we live for so many more decades after that.
Yeah.
So release the pressure to figure it out and figure out what do you want to do in this season of your life?
Yes.
What do you want to do in this chapter of your life?
Yes.
And understand that the book is always being written till the very end.
Yes, that's
You have the
beautiful.
power to create some of the authorship and pay attention to who the other authors are in your story. Some of the authors in our story need to be fired right now.
Love that. That's wonderful. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your gift that you are bringing out there, that you're given, that you're sharing with
Well, thank
everybody.
you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Natasha. Be well. God bless. That was Natasha. I am so grateful for every CEO that comes on here and shares their story. If you know of anyone that you feel would be interested in coming on the show, drop us a line. And also let me know what you think about the show. Your voice really does matter. So I thank you all, and I wish you well in whatever you are doing in your life. And thank you for showing up here.